Thank you so much, Cary, for joining this call today. Cary, would love if you could start by giving us a quick overview of your role at Modivcare and your experience working with frontline teams.
My role at Modivcare at the moment is Vice President of Operations. I support a team of people that work to ensure that we answer the member's call. So from an intake perspective, the member calls us, they want to set up an appointment, and we help them to ensure that we set up those appointments. The centers that I support are all over the world, from the Philippines to Guatemala. I have some centers in India, and I also have centers that are onshore that are badged employees that work here at Modivcare. So it's a nice balance.
You're working with global teams all over the place. So, with that, what have you learned about effective leadership from working with frontline teams, and how has that shaped your approach as an operations leader?
Well, I'll tell you that a lot of my learnings came from some mishaps, some mistakes, and sometimes people feel like that's a bad thing. And personally, you want to fail fast. And that's what I learned. It's okay to make a mistake as long as you don't repeat the mistake. So one is understanding your audience, whether you're talking to somebody that sits in the Philippines or in Guatemala or in India or in Maine, you want to understand where people are coming from. And when you have that perspective culturally and that emotional intelligence, you can support them. You can help them through their journey, because at the end of the day, we can't do any of this work without the front line. Their understanding of the business is critical. Many times, I think people hold back some information, not intentionally. Oh, but somebody doesn't need to know. Personally, I think it's really important for people to know what I call the answers to the test. If I'm an agent, I want to understand what I'm going to be graded on. So I want that agent to know this is the answers to the test. I want you to be effective and successful, and this is how you're going to get it done. And sometimes we fail to do that. And so from that perspective, I was an agent as well. I think that connection is something you can never let go of. Understanding what impacts somebody's life, whether it's their schedule or their pay or, how they connect with that member, those are critical things that no matter what level you are, you can never forget, because that's what's going to make the difference for that member to feel that experience is unique and special to them.
I noticed that you on LinkedIn call yourself a people champion. And so, how have you seen this focus on prioritizing people in operations positively impact your overall business strategy and performance as a team?
Listening. Listening is one of the most important things that we can do. Whether you get on video, because a lot of our lives are virtual nowadays, right? But understanding, having that eye contact, letting that person be heard is going to be critical. So as a people champion, whether it's a focus group in person or a focus group virtually, understanding the concerns and communicating. Sometimes I'll get a concern and there's not a lot that I can do for XYZ reason. It could be a client request and this is just how it is. But listening and coming back and sharing, these are the concerns you have. I was able to resolve these. Let's try this other alternative. But having an opportunity for people to voice, having them be heard, I think is critical, right? And so from that perspective, I feel good about being a people champion because I sat in that seat. I talked to members and clients. I was an agent back at AT&T, which was a great experience that allowed me to respect greatly what that job is like, because taking calls back to back isn't easy. And so, you have to stop that last call and then you have to start again and say, okay, this is a new opportunity. How can I be my best person when I start this call all over again? And that could happen 40 times in a day for an agent. So, and some of our agents are listening to members that are calling for their families. I got to take my mom to dialysis. I have to take my son for a treatment. These are difficult questions. So giving an agent an opportunity to learn about all the tools that we have available, listening to that member, connecting them to their family, somebody in their life. We talked about being from the Philippines, their Lola, which is grandma. When they start thinking about that person, when they're listening to the call, the connection starts to flow. And all of a sudden, your 8 hours don't feel like 8 hours of work because you're helping somebody that you're thinking of in your mind. So from a people champion perspective, it's not about me, it's about them and the amazing work that they do.
Love that you said that. I guess you kind of hinted on it, but how do you ensure that they are in line with improving customer retention and satisfaction? How do you get them on the same page?
Communication. Not everything is written down, and there's not a process and a procedure for everything. So as we learn, it's critical to communicate. Sometimes, you know, we look at things and we want to know if something went wrong, who did it? I'm more of how can we make sure that it doesn't occur again. So it's not about who failed, it's about how do we improve the process so the member experience just continues to improve. So I think from that perspective, communication is key. Sometimes it's not perfect communication. Sometimes it's going to be what happened and this is the steps and we get through it. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but communicating nonetheless is critical, mission critical to ensure everybody's aligned, they understand. And it comes from a place of wanting to improve, right? Unless, of course, if something was obviously done that impacts a member, that's a different story. But from a perspective of how to engage workforce, communication.
Frontline employees often have those firsthand insights into the inefficiencies and the bottlenecks at an organization. What strategies have you used to ensure that their feedback is captured and integrated into operational decision making?
Yeah, many years ago, I had an executive at AT&T, and his name is Ralph De La Vega, very, very hands-on leader that I met and became an executive later in his career. And the focus group was the number one thing. Listening, and I know I've repeated this, but I think it's critical, and understanding what are the things that are obstacles are so important, but not just listening. If you have a focus group and you don't come back to the team and let them know what you've done and what you found and make them part of the change, then we fail. It's really critical to come back. So recently with my New Jersey team, we had a focus group. They had probably 25 things of issues that they were concerned about. This was a couple of years ago. And we came back and said, okay, this is a work in progress and this is what we're doing. And now, instead of my next meeting being about what's the next set of problems, it's we solutioned all these. And we think you should make this change. And so now, instead of it becoming, I'm upset about this, is I have about 16 people that are looking at solutions. So our next meetings are super exciting because it's how do we use AI tools? And this is how we think it'll make the member experience better. So it's a win for everybody.
As you climbed the ladder in operations, what are the key factors that have contributed to your success as an operations leader?
Data, understand the data, know your business really well, listen to the people, and don't be afraid to fight for your people, because that's the people champion piece that is critical. Sometimes we've got to make some business decisions, but when you think about the climate that we're in, we're thinking about AI and a lot of these things, it's really about how we integrate some of these tools with the current jobs that we do today, because there's a lot of fear with what is AI going to do to the population. Sure, I think there was a lot of concern. We can go back in time and look at all the different things that have happened. But with reality, if you come and you look at data, if you know your business and you use technology to enhance that member experience and the experience that you have, then you've really got a winning opportunity. But I always look at every day as an opportunity to interview. I come every day in the morning, just like I did as an agent, and I thought about what am I going to do today that's going to wow not only my superiors, because I have a great boss, he's an amazing leader, but I think about all the people that count on me and that I support. It's servant leadership, and that I think is critical. It's like an upside down triangle. You think that the boss is at the top. It's really not. I am here to remove the obstacles for the people that are doing the good work. So from that perspective, I think that has made a significant voice for the people that want to come to work. So when I go knock on the door and I say, I really need this, they come through because they know I'm going to fight for them.
As a final question, what steps do companies need to take to create more inclusive leadership opportunities? It shows that you care as a leader, so would just love to hear about how companies can just be more inclusive and ensure that underrepresented groups show up in operations and other spaces and parts of leadership.
When we start to realize culture is an important aspect, in leadership and operational efficiencies and all that, and you're sensitive to, I might sound different from what you're used to, right? From an accent perspective, some of the words I use, what I look like and what I sound like, when we start to connect and understand that aspect, and the more I travel, the more I work with different peoples that are diverse, I've I've become better. I've improved myself not only from my travels, but understanding different perspectives has helped me grow. So be open to listening, to seeing things from a different perspective, because sometimes I might not agree with somebody's theory or thought process, but I want to hear it because it might change my mind. So being open is going to be critical. I've got an amazing leader that I've mentioned, and he's extremely open. But sometimes he'll say, is this what you mean? So he helps me get my point across in words that he understands. And so that's going to be key. Having people that are okay with listening to different points of view, understanding perspective, and, as long as we're all aligned and moving in the right direction, there's no stopping any leader that wants to do well and excel.
Thank you so much for your time today, Cary. We really appreciate your insights.
Great. Nice talking to you, Kayla. And thank you for your time.